Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Hope y'all are doing well. I'm finally feeling better, and we've got a new season, and we're waiting on balance changes for DC Dual Force, which will be interesting. But we know, because the devs have given us a bit of a hint, that I believe it is both Flashpoint and Hellblaze that are going to be targeted for some sort of nerf. I think that Hellblaze was pretty format defining for last season. I don't know if it's going to be the same this season because I just feel like the meta shifts and ebbs and flows. And although there is a ton of burn in the game in general, and we'll talk about a deck that utilizes that burn, as you might imagine, we'll see where that leaves us. And I think with Flashpoint, the suggestion so that it's not so I would say fair to say broken with Ivy, maybe changing it to seek X amount of cards out of your deck rather than draw. And because it's so hard to interact, like you can't interact with it, right? Because they can just make the Ivy plant whenever in Flashpoint. The fact that there's been more and more support for Shazam and Lightning Bolts, which again, I think sort of that good random like Joker, right? You could just miss out on your bolts or your Joker shots hitting and stuff like that. And then when you really hit them, it feels really bad for your opponent. I don't know. It's hard, I'm sure, to balance those things. But we have those updates, I believe, coming on October 10th. Today I am recording as of the day before, so I'm excited to see how things are going. But first things first, thank you all for the support. As always, please keep liking, subscribing, commenting. I love the community and been loving this game for a while. As you can tell, it's been the most of the content on the channel. So thank you for tuning in. And today, what I want to do is just, although I have this old deck on the side here, go over my, I think, top 3 suggested decks and potentially some of the 3 decks that you might most frequently see on your way to World's First. So really quick, we did make it to World's Finest, rather, not World First. Relatively recently, is quite a few people on the ladder. I think we all got kicked back to Gold if you were in World's Finest, I believe. So there's plenty of people who have already gotten right back up there, and it was definitely way easier this time, of course, starting from Gold, not starting from Sidekick. So where's the meta at? What are my thoughts on that generally right now? I think it's no secret, and I'm so curious why this happened exactly. That Gotham Harbor and this specific pairing of leaders has just like seen way more play. And it was the deck that took me to World's Finest last season. And then I kind of dropped it for a bit. I was kind of like, oh, I'm still missing some cards for my optimal build. I think that, I think everyone was sort of convinced that Shazam Control was the best deck to be playing. And I still think it's a really strong deck, but it's funny, sort of out of nowhere, it felt like everyone started playing Aquaman Batman again, and people were iterating on the deck list, and my deck list has actually changed quite a bit. But I've also acquired some cards that I didn't have, so maybe we'll just start with that deck today. But it's all over the ladder. I think all 3 of these decks, and in particular Gotham Harbor and Doomsday Flash, I saw the most, although I did play, I think, 3 or 4 Ivy Batman mirrors yesterday on my way up to World's Finest. So that deck is still, going pretty strong. So it's hard for me to say exactly, let's just go into the build, why Aquaman Batman became so much more popular kind of out of nowhere. But it did. And I guess maybe people started iterating on it again and just feeling like it had a good game. Like, this is my theory. I would say it's like has a decent game into Flash Doomsday. It kind of contends with any of the other mid-range decks pretty well. and does have game against some of the slower tempo decks with plays like Steve Trevor and Alfred Early, and being able to play some of these really really strong silver recruits really sort of drives it home. And I still don't think my build is like quite where I want it to be. I think it's in a lot better spot, but I think I'm definitely missing some key cards. So definitely take my build with a grain of salt, but it was incredibly consistent. Definitely from like pretty much gold all the way through diamond. I was playing it with maybe dropping a handful of games here or there, but for the most part just feeling very good about the list, refining the list, and kind of just moving on up. So you've got a good early game, you've got a good mid and late game. It just feels like across the board the deck is just doing pretty solid stuff at all points in the game. Now, I do think it struggles with control the most, and I would say Tyranny control the most, and we'll talk about why, because I ended up playing a Tyranny control list throughout part of my climb, and also I've been playing it also in World's Finest. So let's take a look at the build, and we'll go through it and talk about why. So I've been playing with a couple of spots, and part of that is A Better Tomorrow and Superman Robot. At one point I was playing Antiope. At one point I was trying the Minotaur, the 3/4. And again, I would not say that there is like any clear build where I'm like, that's it. I played against different builds of Gotham Harbor. But I will say when we get toward the bottom, there's a package that I've come to really love, and that was definitely something that I picked up from, I think it was Combat Panda, who's a great streamer and YouTuber as well. And a couple other folks I think were running it too, like probably Blade, probably or Light at one point as well. So definitely this is like a combination of those builds. So A Better Tomorrow, this is a nod to the format feeling more like mid-range control focused. I still think Flash Doomsday is quite the aggro threat, and we'll go through that deck again. But I think A Better Tomorrow, when you get it early, it's great. When you get it later, it's not great. But it doesn't feel as empty-handed as something like a Superman Recruit or something like that. I'm still not convinced this is the right card, but I think the stat bump into the mirror match matters a lot. And so that was kind of why I considered doing that. Nothing's really changed about running 2 Alfred, 2 Utility Belt. But I've gotten back on board with Superman Robot, and I really dislike this card after it got nerfed. But this is more of a nod to the Doomsday Flash matchup. This card's just annoying for them to deal with, right? They have to sink 2 attacks into it. Anything that could soak up like a full Flash turn, I think is pretty good. So I've really liked it. Obviously, with a combination of Better Tomorrow, it gets pumped more, and there's a card that we are playing in the deck again that also makes it a little bit more relevant. But I've been really happy with it. I think even in the mirror, it's a bit annoying. Yes, of course, you can get tear gassed, so it has -2 attack. I just find that Superman Robot buys you the right amount of time, or allows you to set up your early board, protecting something like Alfred, or protecting a Steve Trevor until you get a grapple hook. I think it does a good job of that. So I've been pretty happy playing 2 Superman Robot. Steve Trevor's still an all-star. Bluebird, excellent. Really bronze cards I love to start with. I'm trying playing one of Brenda. And we'll talk about why, but this deck has many more gold recruits in it than it used to. And I just found that I've really liked getting this card in the early, mid, and late game to just draw me more gold cards. So I'm kind of giving it a shot. And so far, I've been pretty happy with it. Detective Chimp, excellent card. I just think that every Tactics deck should be running this, so there's not much to say there. I cut one of my Favor of the Gods. Now, I think I am still on the fence, and I may do 2 Favor of the Gods over 1 Better Tomorrow and 1 Favor of the Gods. I still think this card does a lot for this deck, and I've really liked it, especially to shut out aggro. So yeah, I'm still kind of on the fence about that. I think Favor of the Gods actually the two of is appeals more to me, but I'm still gonna just test the deck out. We are running the Paco package that is, as you'll see here, that I was able to craft Jaime. And although I'm still testing out, is this package worth it? I've just seen so many people playing this, especially in Aquaman Batman, and it just kind of feels necessary because Jaime is one of those like you have to answer threats. And just Paco is like a totally fine card to play out early, but also really good late into a Jaime turn or into a Blue Beetle turn. So I think it's probably worth running that package. Crypto still excellent card. Wouldn't cut it. 10th metal I'm trying out one of because there are technically there are 7 golds, and then obviously Paco counts as that as well. I'm still not sure if this is quite right, but I will say when you get to play a Superman ahead of curve, a Wonder Woman ahead of curve, or Truth and Justice ahead of curve, especially in the mirror match, and I did that once or twice on the climb up, it's huge. It just kind of like shuts out the game then and there. So we're trying that out since I just recently got one, which was my first one. Still think Steel is a good roadblock, good body. It's also solid with another ultimate that we also very luckily opened recently, so that works out well. Robin, still a great card. Queen Hippolyta, still a great card. But we opened Mara, a Might recruit I've been wanting to open for forever. And so if you are not familiar with her, and I think she has this kind of hidden package in this deck, and it's really, really good. So the first time you play a recruit on your turn with 5 or more attack or power, you summon a tidal wave, which is a 5/1 speed, and then it dies at the end of turn, but you're just going to smash into something and trade basically your free 5/1 for one of their actual threats. It's also a 3/7 body, which is really hefty, and just likely will survive to make 2 tidal waves, right, for the most part. So she's excellent. So obviously you drop a Steel, you drop a Robin. After you play Mara, you're getting just some really, really crazy value. Obviously, same with Jaime, right? If you can play that gold card, including Paco, he's going to turn into that 7/7 of 8 hunter. Also, I don't know if this is intended. My guess is not. But if you arrest a flipped Blue Beetle, when it comes down, it will activate itself because it sees itself as a gold card. So if you arrest a Blue Beetle, it's going to come back and then immediately attack you. So even if you may have to do that in a certain scenario to buy some time, just know that this thing essentially comes back into play with speed. So just be a little careful of that. We still have another flex slot here in Hammer Throw. I just think with the amount of fighting for the board that I feel like I'm having to do, I still think Hammer Throw is pretty nice. So I feel like there are like these 4 flex slots where they could be like 3 bronze and a silver, or like 2 silver and 2 bronze. I'm still kind of working out the numbers, especially the one-ofs, because it's an interesting card game that we have 2 of one. We can have 2 of certain regular cards and then 1 of other cards, and just trying to figure out what feels good when you're drawing it, because you need your cards to have really high impact. So, we've really lucked out with some of the cards we've opened, and the rest of the list, as you can see, includes so many ultimate cards, and that's maybe why this deck is so strong. So you've got Green Arrow, which really shuts out even like the Joker strategies that have to like play out their board through Jailbreak, and then you just usually get to kill all of them in one shot. Catwoman, this card is just so nasty, having a hidden threat that just yoinks a golden recruit out of their deck, unless they've got culling or some other sweeper, and this sticks around, it just is pretty much game ending. Blue Beetle I'm trying as a one-of. To be fair, I only do have one, but with having Pacos in our deck, it's kind of a no-brainer, and just getting those free leader charges can be excellent. Now, I would say when you think about playing Robin and Blue Beetle, I think Robin on the whole is a better card. But I think if you make a little bit of room, playing at least one Blue Beetle, especially because you're running the Paco package for Jaime, makes a lot of sense. Bat Cycle I've still liked as one of. I don't think I would want to do 2 right now because a leader charge, especially in the mirror, is not worth so much. Yes, of course, on Aquaman. But I'd rather play a Blue Beetle. Like, it's possible I should be running 2 Blue Beetle instead of Bat Cycle and Blue Beetle. So that's something I'm kind of thinking about. Would I rather have a body plus a charge rather than evade and draw and a charge, right? But it is quite a lot that you get still from Bat Cycle. Still running the 1 Lucius. I think the card advantage that you get from Batman and having Lucius is still worth that little package. Obviously, you're only going to play 1. And then we've got our top end. We've got Wonder Woman, Batmobile, Superman. Just opened Batman last night, which I'm super excited about. I did put back in the Truth and Justice, and I'll kind of talk about why, and that's related to Yara Flor. So I had watched Combat Panda play this card. I'd seen other folks, I think, been playing it, and I was kind of like, is this that good? But if you think about the synergy of Yara Flora being cheaper, and playing cards like Mara that are making these essentially free 5 power tidal waves, right? It is not crazy for you on a silver turn to play 2 5 power cards, right, with the Mara, make something, and then play a Yara Flora for free, and it's a 5/5 aura, and so it's pretty hard to deal with for the most part. And then you slam a Truth and Justice, and you win the game. But I think, and also this adds 2 more golds that count towards Blue Beetle and Jaime. So I think that the Yara Flora, what I would call is like the Yara Mara package, is where this deck needs to be, because it just has such staying power in the mid game. Like when you're playing the mirror and you don't have these tools, which I did not have for a very long time, it feels really bad. It feels like your deck is just playing some of these kind of like dorky, smaller recruits that just don't do enough. So Brenda, right, is hitting, there are 10 gold cards in the deck, or 9? Is it 9? There's Paco, which would be 9. Yeah, so I guess it's 9. Gold cards. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so she has some decent chance of hitting. And so I guess I kind of include her in that package of cards. And obviously more golds for Jaime makes a difference as well. I believe that's the same sort of interaction as Paco for Yara Flora. So yeah, this is my current list. This felt pretty much excellent the whole way. I definitely I'm still playing with a couple of slots in the deck, but overall, it's felt just very, very powerful. Kind of like you're doing the best thing you can at all points in the game. And really, the scariest thing are the sweepers. Whether that's, the Ivy Batman deck, which I guess we'll talk about next. Being able to use Cull or Massacre or Ladama. That's your scariest matchup, I would say, and part of the reason why I built the other deck. So again, go out and play this deck. It's going to do well for you. You do not have to have all these cards for this deck to operate, I promise. Last season I had a way more budget build and hit World's Finest with really not that much trouble at all. So whether you're new to the game or just have a smaller collection, you do not have to have this list for it to work. So also, I'm going to try posting the lists like actually written out in the chat, because I think that's a visually probably more helpful than the deck codes where you're missing a bunch of cards so you don't know what you're missing. Or it might tell you, but it's just awkward to build the lists. So yeah, so I would say of the 3 decks, if you can play this, I would recommend this. Yes, you're going to play mirror matches. Yes, it's kind of on everyone's radar right now. But it is because it's just probably the strongest deck in the format. It's maybe crazy to say, but that's kind of how I feel right now. So yeah, that's where we're at with this build. So let's talk about why I built this deck, and of course, like a lot of big shout outs to Analyze It Gaming. This was a deck that they played a ton of last season. I think they played a ton of it this season. And my guess, although I haven't directly spoken to them about this, is because it has a good matchup, or I would say it's favored against Batman Aquaman. So we'll talk about why. So I call it just big old control. Obviously, there are plenty of other control decks, but to me, this control deck appeals the most, and I've gotten some more pieces for it, although I am missing Dark Side, which is a big game in the deck. That will probably be my next ultimate to craft if I can. So, obviously, you're going to run Alfred. Ritual of Sacrifice does quite a bit of work. I love the card, whether you're sacrificing a Savage Vine or you just sacrifice something like Brenda, who's literally just not a body on the board. You get some really, really great use out of Ritual of Sacrifice. And killing those really pesky, like, shield units, right? Whether that's taking a Superman off the board or something that has Truth and Justice on it, right? Ritual of Sacrifice, you'll have plenty of bodies to work with. It's great. Paco, we are running Jaime as well in this list. So we're going to be running the Paco package. Ivy Flytrap, just excellent, excellent recruit. Just annoying to get rid of and gets a ton of card advantage. The Riddler, same premise, just good statted early bronze card that gets you card advantage. Detective Chimp obviously counts as that as well. Running double Deimos, double Hugo Strange. I will say, being able to play Hugo Strange and grapnel hook it back feels really, really nasty. And I found that when you're able to just like turbo shut off a Shazam or an Aquaman, it feels like you can't lose the game. So Hugo does like a crazy amount of work in the deck. For Brenda, again, we have 9 gold cards in the deck. She's drawing us cards for Ivy as well. And what I love about this deck, quick aside, is that there's so much play to, well, I guess not play, but just like you get this chip damage off of your Savage Vines from drawing cards, right? You're not like big and flashy with Flashpoint, pun intended. You are sort of like progressively using your card advantage to, chip them down. And I will say I've had many a game where by the mid to late game, they've lost like 7, 8, 9 life off of Savage Vines just in all the card draw that we have in the deck, which is, Flashpoint. One Flashpoint will do that, right? But that's pretty impressive for a deck that doesn't really have that as like a quote like main strategy. We're of course running, some of the other utility tactician cards, right? Utility Belt, Bluebird. Maybe I should have 2 friends in high places. I've liked 1. I just find that 1 has been enough so far. And it does cost you something to spend a resource to just draw a card out of your deck. So far I've been pretty happy with that. Got Green Arrow. I've liked a 1 of Grid. Again, this is a nod to obviously aggro and specifically the Flash Doomsday deck. I still think you have a pretty good matchup because you're running Batman instead of something like Shazam. But Grid, I kind of wanted to test over what's her face, who's the 2/3 that has guard and reduces their, they can only play 1 resource. I kind of just wanted a more impressive body. I feel like if you're going to be seeing Flash Doomsday a lot, and I will say I'm not joking, I think the first 10 games that I played, like from gold till like through plat or something, it was literally every game was against Doomsday Flash. So I don't think you want to sneeze at, having a like chunky guard unit like Grid, which buys you a bit of life and time. Running our Blue Beetle, of course, to indoctrinate, to calling, just really, really excellent. Spells, indoctrinate, you can get quite a bit out of, and it feels really good when you steal something and then get to play it. It feels pretty excellent. Jaime, we're running Catwoman, we're running just some insanely good utility tactician cards that can kind of close the door if they don't get answered. Lucius Fox, of course, 2 Robins, of course, and then we've got our upper, endgame package, which is not ideal, right? Definitely whether I would add another gold or subtract 1 and add a different one, I should be playing Darkseid. It's an excellent card. It's a huge body. You can fetch up with Friends in High Places. That destroys not only a card, but a lane, which is really crazy. So once I have that card, it'll be in here. I'll kind of figure out what the curve looks like. We have plenty of bronze. So I probably would think about cutting maybe one of those. But I've been really happy with kind of how the curve has been for this deck because you just run some really great cheap cards that allows you to kind of come out the gates and do a lot of chip damage. You know, sometimes your opponents are stumbling and they're maybe spending a resource drawing a card or doing something like that. You know, between playing like the Bluebirds and Hugo Strange and making Savage Vines and stuff like that, you can actually get someone pretty low when they think you're kind of going to play slow, quote unquote, because you're a control deck. But you just have access to some of the best bronze units in the game, I feel. And then, of course, our late game package, so I don't get too off track. One Appetite. You could run two. I think one has felt pretty good for me. Lex Recruit has gotten more and more popular with Flash Doomsday because it's a huge, huge health pool. Massacre, I think, is probably an auto include at this point with the prevalence of Aquaman, Batman. You just need a big sweeper. They're going to keep filling their board. You want to find ways of pushing them back. Batmobile, still excellent late game threat. Opened up Batman, put him right in here because of course. And then to Ladama. I'm pretty sure there is still some sort of bug where if you go Paco plus another gold card, Ladama doesn't go off because I have had that happen. But don't quote me because maybe there was something weird about that interaction that enabled that to happen. Because of course, if you play Paco plus another gold, that's not Ladama. So let's say Paco and Appetite, then you should be able to Ladama because those were two other gold cards that you played this game, right? Because it says if you played at least two other gold cards, KO all recruits. And then you can grab all this back. So part of me is wondering if you need two Ladama because you're running Friends in High Places. Maybe you just need one. So I think there's numbers to put. I would go to Analyze a Gaming's list over mine because I think he has like what are probably the ideal cards. But I've been playing this in Before World's Finest and in World's Finest. And I really feel like this deck is super well positioned right now. Probably was well positioned like before, but especially into Aquaman, Batman kind of being the biggest like problem in the format besides Flash Doomsday. I feel like this deck is in such a good spot. It is control oriented. It's definitely not a deck I guess I would recommend to like a very brand new player because there's a lot of these kind of micro synergies and interactions in the deck. But it's an excellent deck. I think it's really fun to play. I think there's a lot of skill expression. And I just think that it's a really solid pairing. I really love the Batman Ivy kind of synergy. So that's that deck. I will not spend too much time on this deck. I feel like everyone knows what it is, hates playing against it for the most part. But like the reality is the deck is just pretty good. Although I will say I just don't think it's as consistent as Aquaman, Batman, or so let's put it this in simpler terms. I think this deck's win rate over time is probably 10 to 20% lower than the first two decks I showed you. So in the grand scheme of things, maybe this has a 55 to 60% win rate instead of a 70 to 80% win rate. And I feel like that's reasonable to say, at least based on my experience. But specifically for getting to World's Finest, if you are crunched on time, and I totally get not everyone has time to play this game as much, this is probably the deck for you because you don't need that great of a win rate, right? Because if you cobble together a hot streak or something like that, right, you can kind of climb the ranks pretty fast. This deck, it's quick games. That's the thing, right? You're killing your opponent by the gold turn at times or closing it out by that. Or it's clear you're losing and you pack it in and you play another one, right? So it's just it's going to lend itself to the early season and probably not much more than that, or climbing because it is just that quick and efficient. But again, I think that people know how to play against it. It's been the boogeyman for like a month and a half now. So there's no secret about it. So I'm sure people have different builds, but this is what I'm running. The Kite Man, exactly what you want. You can dump your hand kind of early. Ambush Bug, 1 Power Surge. I found that 2 was a little clunky, but 1 felt very good. Opening up with Partners in Crime, still an excellent start. Mr. Freeze, just probably one of the best Anarchy recruits because of his burn and the fact that he's a body and he exhausts combat-based leaders. Max Mercury, huge problem if you don't answer it. Man Bat, huge problem if you don't answer it. Ring Chooses, I just feel great about this card. Whether you're snagging a John Stewart that can hit your opponent in the face for 7, a Hal Jordan in the late game if you need a little bit more staying power, or you just grab the 1-2 free recruit, the Green Lantern Cadet right here, and just play a free 3-4. Pretty good. Liberty Bell, Energy Blast, Iris West. Maybe some lists run 1 or 2, or 1 rather. I like to run 2. I still think this card has like a huge amount of impact and lets Flash do things that he really shouldn't be able to get away with. Two-Face excellent. Still really happy with the burn package with 2 Joker Toxin, 2 Lightning Arc. And I did add the Earthquake. That is, I think, an adaptation that I've seen and liked pretty well. 2 Cupid, again, just burning the face. And I get, on top of that with Hellblaze, I get why people are like, wow, there's too much burn. And it's not that I don't think that there is too much burn, because I do think there's plenty. I do think that you can fight through it. I don't know if it's like the end all be all personally. But it is pretty massive, because you also have stuff like Black Manta too, right? Like Cupid and Black Manta are like bodies you have to deal with. Obviously, they're relatively easy to kill, but they're bodies that also deal damage. Captain Cold I liked as a one of. Like the bigger they are, the harder they fall as a one of. Really like the 2 cheetahs. I forget who probably innovated on this or added this. Great addition to the build. It's pretty much exactly what you want. And then at the top of the line here, we've got just 2 Hellblaze, 1 Deathstroke, 1 Shazam, and that served me very well. I do play this deck from time to time. I played it a little bit on the climb. I'm going to be honest, I just find this deck not terribly fun to play, and I just also think it's, like I said, the win rate I find to be a bit lower with the deck, but you have to respect it. It will absolutely destroy you if you're not prepared for it. So I'd familiarize yourself at least with some of these lists. I would tweak builds of slower decks to address it, so you can shore up that matchup a little bit more. But who knows? I think people are going to iterate on this build. Maybe it'll get even more consistent. Maybe it'll be less kind of burn oriented, and maybe there's a way you can, be utilizing Doomsday in a different way. But I think this deck probably enables him the best in the format right now. So I'm sure this video is quite long enough. And I just wanted to feature, I used to do this for Magic Spellslingers too. When I was covering that game, I always like to kind of give a variety of the decks that I would recommend playing, and also kind of why I would recommend them. So these would be basically my top 3 decks for climbing and getting to world first. Whether you want to play kind of the most quote-unquote powerful deck with Gotham Harbor, what I think is one of the best positioned control decks in Ivy Batman, or you don't have that much time, or you love aggro or burn or something like that, you play Doomsday Flash. I think all 3 of these decks, and many others, can get you to worlds first, but I think that in a nutshell, if I were to recommend these based on the meta and based on where things are at, the matchups you're seeing, the decks you're seeing, these 3 decks you really can't go wrong with some version of them. I think my last sort of closing thoughts here are that Gotham Harbor is least budget friendly, and Flash Doomsday is probably most budget friendly. And then I would say Batman Ivy skews towards less budget friendly as well, because you pretty much need Ladama. Darkseid is obviously excellent, but you probably need Ladama. You probably need some of the other ultimate cards in it. So, again, I think it's reasonable for people to be playing this deck. I know people kind of are sick of it, but it's quick, it's efficient, it's cheap in general. So, I really don't fault people for going into it. So, in the future, I'll see if I can cover more decks, but I wanted to give you my top 3 for today, for doing that final climb to World's Finest. And I wish you guys the best of luck, and hopefully I will see you soon with some more content. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.